something's creeping, it's right outside. So come on in and don't be shy. We've got ghosts and UFOs. Brace yourself, get ready for the show. Don't be afraid of the dark. The fun's about to start. Nightmares our tales will inspire. Oh, tonight at the Scaredy Campfire. Have you heard tell of a demon next door? Or maybe a cryptid on the lake shore? There's nothing too strange for us here. So if you're ready, stamp out your fear. Don't be afraid of the dark. The fun's about to start. Nightmares our tales will inspire. Tonight at the Scaredy Campfire. Whoa, whoa.
Welcome back, campers, to episode 37 of the Scaredy Campfires. Tonight we look forward to things that follow, the shadows that never quite step where we do, the voices that whisper just after the words are spoken. Some presences never leave, and some doors, once opened, can never truly be closed again. Tonight's first story comes from Reddit user u/Plutoni, who shares a chilling encounter on a cold winter night after a long day working with children. Alone, exhausted, and walking through dark, silent streets, an ordinary bus stop turns into a moment of bone-deep dread when a man appears, waiting where no bus should be. What happened next will make you trust your instincts like never before. This happened to me about a few months ago. I don't remember the exact date, but I do remember it was between December to January. I'm a 5'4", 17 female student working part-time at a children's play area. Usually in a place like this, I'm surrounded by happy moments, cheery laughs, good vibes. I usually host birthday parties, and I never get bad feelings or energy about anything or anyone. I was working on a Sunday and I finished on close down, so it was very late. I'm exhausted, I just wanted to get home. That day I had to walk. Taxis are expensive, especially as I'm a student, and buses stop running early on Sundays. As you can imagine, after dealing with kids all day, I'm exhausted, burnt out, and just zoned out in general. I want to get home and rest, so I open up the Maps app and try to navigate myself to my friend's place, as I was staying there overnight because I live in a town, but my job is in a city, and as I mentioned, buses stop running earlier on Sundays. So, getting to the actual horror of that night, it was about 1 hour 10-minute walk to my friend's house, and I finished work at 7:30 p.m. Since it's winter, it gets darker earlier and it's very dark out. As sketchy as it sounds, I had to walk through a lot of alleys and dead silent areas. I'm estimated about halfway to her place because it was past 8 p.m. at that point. Oh, and not to mention, I also forgot my coat at work, so I was walking in the freezing cold. I'm walking down this long road and I'm checking my navigation app on 20%, and I've got to walk straight down until I have to turn a left corner. Feeling sleepy, shivering, and exhausted, I almost get to the end of the road and I get an uneasy vibe that something was not right. I look up from my phone, and to the other side of the road was a man that seemed like he was maybe in his mid-20s, maybe around 5'9". I couldn't really tell. I think he was just average height, approaching a bus stop. He was walking towards my direction and then stopped at that bus stop. I don't think too much of it. I just thought that I'm being paranoid, and usually I get a bit scared and worried when walking at night, so I brush it off. I walk past the man and the bus stop. I felt his eyes glare at me as I walked past him to turn the corner. As soon as I passed him, I had the strongest, gut-wrenching feeling in my stomach that I need to run. So as soon as I turned the corner, I book it. I ran till I physically couldn't breathe. I ran for about 3 minutes straight until I decided to turn around. The man I saw at the bus stop was speeding, walking in my direction. He was a far distance away, but the point is that he was following me. I frantically tried to catch my breath as my stomach dropped when I saw him, but in that moment I felt so angry. I felt angry at myself, at that man, at life. I started to run. I ran, and I kept going until I felt I was about to collapse. It started to feel like I was breathing in thorns. My body was shaking. I started to see lights from a large road with shops surrounding, and I stopped for a minute. I looked back, and the man stood about 150 meters away from me, and I distinctly noticed him frail his arms up, turn around, and walked back towards where he came from disappointedly. At least, that's how it seemed. Thinking about it now, it's actually very strange that he was waiting at the bus stop because, as I mentioned at the start, buses stop running early on Sundays. And every time I walk alone at night, I always remember this incident. And I think to myself, what if I didn't get to the instinct to run? That night, a sixth sense saved her from a fate unknown. The man vanished into the shadows, his purpose a mystery, his presence a warning. Every late night walk since, that gut-wrenching feeling lingers, because sometimes survival comes down to one simple choice: run. Tonight's second story comes from Reddit user u/traditionalarm5956, who recalls a haunting encounter from junior high. In an old house with no electricity, a late-night trip to the kitchen reveals a ghostly woman in a vintage dress and a large hat, an apparition that turns out to be tied to the house's mysterious past. What's even stranger? The living remember her well, and her story refuses to fade away. This story that happened to me when I was in junior high, I just turned 41. So this was when I was between 14 to 16 years of age. Many moons ago, I still remember it like it was yesterday. Anyway, I remember my friend George was one of a few who were considered one of my best friends. There was a small group of us at the time. We always hung out in school, after school, on the weekends, etc. Well, anyway, I remember this was when my friend George's mother had to spot a house from her boyfriend's neighbor because her boyfriend knew she was tired of living in an apartment and was looking for a house, and he saw this as a perfect opportunity since it was next door to his family's house he grew up in and actually still lived in with his family and cousins at the time. So she had just finished the process of buying the house from the previous owners and was ready for moving in. She got settled in, and now her and George were about to spend their first week there. That whole week at school, George is excited, telling me how cool his new house is and how much better it was than all his old apartments, which I was happy to see him happy. It made me feel excited for him, and the best part is my mother lived with my grandmother, her mum at the time, which was like 5 minutes from George's new house, so it made hanging out much simpler than before, especially being kids in junior high school in the 90s. Well, the first weekend of George living at the new house is coming up. After hearing him brag all week, George asked if I would want to come hang out during the weekend since they were barbecuing with his mom's boyfriend and his family, and of course I didn't pass up the opportunity, so immediately after school that Friday, we all headed over to George's. It was a fun day to say the least. It was like two houses in one because everyone was going freely back and forth from George's house to George's mom's boyfriend's house, both having food and music. It was great. Anyway, the night time finally approaches and it's getting late. I tell George and his mom I'm heading home. George's mom said it was late. Maybe I should stay the night and go home in the morning when the sun's up. George was like, yeah man, the whole family is gonna put on a new horror movie and watch it. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was the movie I Know What You Did Last Summer. It was just released on VHS at the time. Well, about 30 minutes into the movie, I ask if I can go to the restroom. George mum says my electricity won't be turned on until Monday. I've been borrowing electricity from my boyfriend next door until then, which meant she was running electrical cords from his house, which in those days people did when needed, and they migrated them to her living room, meaning the rest of the house was dark. And in those days, we didn't have cell phone like today with little flashlights. We had house phones. And if you had a cell phone, it was huge and didn't have a flashlight, and they cost a lot more than today. When I get done using the bathroom, I head back towards the living room, guiding myself by touching the walls. I decided to take a detour to the kitchen to get something to drink out of the ice chest. I saw a silhouette of a woman in what looked like the 1950s style dress, but a fancy one. She had a big hat, roses on it. The top part of her dress hugged her figure, but the bottom part was wide like a bell. It was an old style dress. I assumed it was George's mom's boyfriend's grandma. I told her, excuse me, I didn't see you there because it's dark without light, and went about my way to the living room where I can see much easier due to the TV being a big screen. I told George's mom, sorry, I almost didn't see your boyfriend's grandma in the kitchen, but don't worry, she's safe. That's when they all looked at me like I'm crazy. Everyone's jaw dropped. That's when George's mom's boyfriend was like, Grandma, my grandma lives far. What do you mean? An old lady's in the kitchen? So he walked in there trying to get light from his lighter, but no one was there. He searched the whole house. No one. That's when he asked me, how this lady look? I described her as the lady who had great taste in clothing because it was a fancy 1950s style dress with a huge hat that had roses on it. He then starts walking back and forth dramatically, like he was trying to get his point across through emotion that he was really scared about something. That's when he tells me, hold on, I'll be right back. As a matter of fact, everyone follow me. Let's go next door to my house. So we all follow him where all the lights work perfectly fine, and he goes and pulls out a picture from an old canister that held some of his family photos. He pulls two from the stack and shows me the first one. It's a picture of his grandma, and what do you know? A lady who resembled the woman I saw in the kitchen even had her style of clothing and everything, not the same thing I saw her wearing, but a similar style. Then he pulls out a picture of someone took of his grandma at the same lady's funeral, standing next to the casket, crying because they were best friends. And in that picture, the lady from the kitchen was wearing the same dress in her casket that she was wearing when I seen her in the kitchen. That's when George's mom's boyfriend said, you saw my grandma's best friend. She originally owned the house and is related to the people George's mum bought the place from. That whole night they all migrated everything to George's mom's boyfriend's house that they considered important until that following Monday when George's power would be turned on. They didn't want to be in there while there was no electricity, and George's mom did not want to run into her in the dark. George didn't seem to mind, he thought it was cool. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I just turned 41 and I remember everything about that day and what led up to that day like it happened yesterday. Anyway, I thought I'd share that with this community. You can help pass on the story whenever you find yourself at a campfire and want to scare your family and friends. Maybe have a barbecue while doing it. The people in the story I didn't refer to by name was intentional to keep them private. The ghostly woman in the kitchen wasn't just a fleeting shadow. She was a piece of history, a connection between the past and present, lingering long after her time. Sometimes when the lights go out, the stories come alive, and in that house, the past still watches from the dark. That closes out episode 37, Campers. Maybe it's superstition to glance over your shoulder, or maybe it's instinct. Either way, the next time you feel that familiar chill at your back, don't be too quick to brush it off. The dark loves company, and sometimes it chooses you. Until we meet again, keep walking, but don't forget to listen for the footsteps behind.
As the night gets longer and the darkness creeps in, with the eerie silence broken only by whispering wind, come gather round the fire, the flickering flames, and hear the tales of the spooky and the strange. A chill up your back, a shiver up your spine. You'll be haunted by the things that you find. Legends will unfold and stories will be told at the Scaredy Campfire, for only